President Muhammad Buhari appoints Doyin Salami as new chief economic advisor.
OPEC gets new Secretary General.
EU, new COVID-19 variant detected by French researchers.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we focus on the political outlook of Nigeria in the year 2022.
Now, Nigeria in the year 2021 had its fair share of successes and challenges in almost all spheres of endeavor, ranging from insecurity, economic tumult, and religious turbulence, including social and political commotion.
Of course, now that you have said it, Nadabo, at the level of politics, it was really, eventful. Of course, we know that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, set and, of course, accomplished 14 different activities leading to the successful conduct of the November 6, 2021 governorship election in Anambra State. That's also in addition to conducting many by-elections, of course, in 2021.
And it will also be recalled that over 40 offices of the INEC were either touched or vandalized, mostly in the southeastern part of Nigeria, fueling speculations that some people did not want the Anambra gubernatorial election that is to hold.
Well, it is also important to mention that the fact that in addition to conducting many by-elections in 2021, many state independent electoral commissions held their own local government elections. For instance, for the second consecutive time, Kaduna State Independent Electoral Commission used electronic voting machines to conduct local government polls, which is now, of course, as we all know, boosting voters' confidence and electoral integrity.
And indeed, the INEC also consolidated on its initiative to have candidates' nomination process, accreditation of observers, journalists, and party agents done online through a dedicated portal. The Commission similarly commenced online pre-registration of voters and that a continuous voters registration exercise.
Now, apart from all that we have mentioned, INEC was able to create additional polling units in order to smoothen and enhance voters' access and participation in electoral process, of course, by converting a total, we're told, of 56,872 voting points and voting point settlements into polling units, bringing the total number to 176,848 plus.
Now, part of the introduced innovations by INEC into Nigeria's electoral process is the bimodal voter accreditation system, the BVAS, piloted during the Isoko State constituency by-election before being deployed for the Anambra gubernatorial election. It replaces the smart card reader used for voter accreditation during the 2015 and 2019 general elections. The efficiency of this device, as witnessed during the Anambra elections, is still suboptimal. Clear?
Indeed, and what should have been the icing on the political cake in Nigeria in 2021 was the presidential assent to the 2021 Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2021 for the conduct of Nigeria's election. But we all know what happened. The President Buhari withheld his assent for some section. No, withheld his assent. Of course, he cited a number of reasons for doing so. But most importantly, he said it was all in the interest of the majority of Nigerians.
And truly, on Good Morning Nigeria today, political analysts will be taking a critical look at the political outlook of Nigeria for the year 2022 and measures needed to be in place for a successful 2023 general election. I am Yusuf Nadabusu. Thank you for joining us.
Already, the political landscape is getting heated, so there's so much to talk about in today's edition of the program. Good morning, Nigeria. I'm sure you would want to stay glued to your television sets. I am Claire Delabo Abdulrazak. As always, it's our pleasure to have you join us on the program. It's broadcast live on Africa's largest TV network, that's the NTA. Up next will be our complimentary segments of the beginning with the morning news, and then much later we'll take on newspaper review. And if we do have time, we'll look at sports and, of course, development on the foreign news. Musba then Wahab is looking at me. And Musba, are you ready for morning news?
Of course, very ready to get the news. Good morning, Claire, and good morning, Nadabo. President Muhammadu Buhari now has a new chief economic advisor, and that is Dr. Doyin Salami. Dr. Salami has been the chairman of the Presidential Economic Advisory Council and still doubles in that capacity. A statement by Special Advisor to the President, Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, indicates that the Chief Economic Advisor to the President is expected to address all issues on the domestic economic and present views on them to the President, closely monitor national and international developments and develop appropriate policy responses, develop and recommend to the President national economic policies to foster macroeconomic stability, promote growth, create jobs and eradicate poverty, among others. A 1989 doctorate degree graduate in economics of Queen Mary College, University of London, Doyin Salami, 59-year-old, is Managing Director and Head Markets Practice at Kano's Edge Consulting Limited and member of the Adjunct Faculty at the Lagos Business School, Pan Atlantic University, where he recently attained the rank of Senior Fellow Associate Professor. Mr. Haytham Al-Ghaiz of Kuwait has been appointed as the next Secretary General of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, with effect from the 1st of August 2022 for a period of 3 years. Is to take over from Nigeria's Mohammed Sanusi Barkindo, who has served 2 terms as Secretary General of the organization. Mr. Al-Ghaiz was appointed through acclamation during the special meeting of the conference of the organization. Mr. Al-Ghaiz, a veteran of the Kuwait Petroleum Corporation and Kuwait's OPEC governor from 2017 to June 2021, currently serves as Deputy Managing Director for International Marketing at Kuwait Petroleum Corporation. The conference expressed its appreciation to Mohammed Sanusi Barkindo for his leadership from 1st of August 2016 and which will end 31st July 2022. Mohammed Sanusi Barkindo, a long-term serving veteran of Nigeria's oil industry and OPEC, has been instrumental in expanding OPEC's historical efforts to support sustainable oil market stability. President Umaru Sissoco Embalo of Guinea-Bissau says he cannot thank President Muhammadu Buhari enough for always standing by him and his country. President Embalo stated this when he received medical doctors from Nigeria on a technical aid mission.
For me, the most important is to say to this team that you are at home. You are not foreigners in Guinea-Bissau. Feel free at home because you are here to support your Guinean brothers and to help give them better health to our population.
Back in Nigeria, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has released a timetable and schedule of activities for the conduct of the June 18, 2022 Ekiti State governorship election. The timetable from the INEC headquarters on Tuesday, 4th January, 2022, indicate that notice of election has already been pasted at the INEC State Office at Ado-Ekiti on the 3rd of January, while party primaries start from the 4th and end on the 29th of January. Last day of withdrawal and replacement of candidates is 25th of February, while campaigns begin on 20th of March and will be rounded off on the 16th of June. The 14-item timetable will be concluded with the conduct of election on the 18th of June 2022. INEC advises all the political parties involved to follow the schedule religiously. The Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, has expressed support for President Muhammadu Buhari's withholding of his assent to the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, saying that Nigeria is not ready for direct primary model. This was at a media briefing in Abuja.
The issue of democracy is the most important. It's more important than any other thing you can talk about. So we don't want to get it, we want to get it right. And all of us, we're all Nigerians. We know the state of our development. Even America, who you can say is the most affluent country, and perhaps the most developed democracy, they don't have direct primaries, for obvious reasons. What they have still is delegate system.
On security matters, the Federal Capital Territory Security Joint Task Force has reclaimed Mate, a village which was recently sacked by bandits in Kwali Area Council of the FCT. This followed the launch of Operation G7 involving over 6 states of the North Central bordering the nation's capital.
Initially sacked, this place we had, they were sacked, but now they are back here. We have already told Bate people to come back. We have informed their village head, Hakimi. We have informed the Hakimi that they should return back. Some of them are even here. Some of those people from Bate are here.
Now, French researchers have detected a new COVID-19 variant. It is called IHU. The new variant has so far affected 12 people in the country. Reports say the variant, which has 46 mutations and 37 deletions, is probably of Cameroonian origin. According to the study, the index case was a vaccinated adult who had returned to France from a trip to Cameroon in Central Africa. Philippe Cousin from IHU Mediterranean Infection, Marseille, France, however, said it is too early to speculate on virological, epidemiological, or clinical features of this IHU variant based on these 12 cases. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has confirmed 428 new cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria, out of which Rivers State has 188 new cases, followed by Ondo with 54, FCT recorded 42, Imo got 25, Nasarawa 24, Oyo has 23, Edo 18, Akwa Ibom 16, Ogun 14, Osun 10, Kano 7, Ekiti recorded 3, while Borno and Plateau had 2 new cases apiece. Nigeria now has a total of 244,548 confirmed cases, with 216,814 cases already treated and discharged, and 3,053 deaths have been recorded. That's a bit of the news, and Good Morning Nigeria. Sure, you can get more in the course of the day on NTA. The program will continue shortly with Claire and Yusuf.
The 157-kilometer Lagos-Ibadan Railway is the first double-track standard gauge railway to be built in West Africa. The Mobolaji Johnson train station is a masterpiece, an infrastructure that is gradually becoming an iconic building in Lagos State. The modern facilities put the station on a world map of train stations. Likewise, other new train stations across the country built to world-class standards. The train and its convenience is indeed an admirable effort, with commendations from Nigerians.
This is a station that we have to commend the federal government for putting a beautiful face, empowering us in Lagos State, not only in economic and political arena.
I can say that I'm really impressed with the infrastructures in place. Kudos to the Minister of Transportations. Kudos to the federal government.
Truly, good things are coming out of Nigeria, and the federal government is deserving of all the applause. The ever-busy ancient city of Onitsha is a commercial hub with millions of commuters seamlessly linking other states daily for business, leisure, and other purposes. To upscale its road network, the construction of a 1.6-kilometer-long second Niger bridge, including a 10.3-kilometer highway furnished with other infrastructure, has been in motion by the federal government. This project will ease congestion on the existing 56-year-old Onitsha bridge and boost the economic capacity of the state as it easily connects to other parts of the country. The completion of the world-class second Niger Bridge Onitsha will be one of the many proud moments of the state, its people, Nigerians, and foreign investors. Onitsha, which hosts the largest market in Africa, is geared up to boast of an impressive road network. Once again, these moments are made alive by the federal government, and it is deserving of all the applause.
The 2022 Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebration is here again. The Nigeria Armed Forces work tirelessly day and night to give us peace to go about our businesses. Some have paid the supreme price. Should we forget the families and loved ones they left behind? No.
I am therefore privileged to honor these veterans who devoted most of their lives, active lives, to securing the nation and the world at large.
So, let's support the Nigerian Armed Forces and their families, corporate organizations, government agencies, parastatals, and individuals. Let's show our love and support for our armed forces. They are our heroes. Buy the Armed Forces Remembrance Emblem and donate into the Armed Forces Remembrance Emblem Appeal account. We love you, and your labor and sacrifice will not be in vain for spilling your blood for us to live.
From the heart of the Federal Capital Territory
to the ancient city of Kano,
from the sprawling rooftops of Ibadan
to the bustling markets of Aba and the creeks of the Niger Delta, you really can't beat the rich.
Over the years, we have kept going, keeping you informed, educated, and entertained.
And how have we survived in the very challenging year?
Because of our pillars of support, namely the 3 tiers of government: ministries, departments and agencies,
corporate bodies and advertisers,
religious bodies,
civil society groups,
political parties, and most importantly, you, our esteemed viewers. Together, we made 2021 great.
And together, we shall make 2022 greater. Thank you.
From all of us here at NTA, your season's greetings and a prosperous new year.
All right, let's turn our attention now to business news, and it appears that the World Bank is focusing attention on Nigeria's inflation and is predicting a rise globally in 2022, of course, pointing at increasing prices, diminishing welfare of Nigerian households. For details of this and more, let's join Alika Okwanache Arwa.
The World Bank noted that Nigeria is projected to have one of the highest inflation rates globally and its 7th highest among sub-Saharan African countries in 2022. According to the Global Financial Institution, high inflation hampers the country's attempts to achieve economic recovery and erodes the purchasing power of most vulnerable households. On the other hand, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, says the banking sector will increase access to loans for Nigerian households and businesses in 2022. CBN Governor Mr. Godwin Emefiele, who disclosed this in a statement, emphasized the need for all stakeholders to work to build a more resilient economy. He noted that the objective of the central bank in 2022 will be to increase access to loans for households with a pledge to sustain improved access to finance and credit for households and businesses, mobilize investment to boost domestic productivity, enable faster growth of non-oil exports, and support employment-generating activities. while stressing that one of the vital lessons learned from the COVID-19 outbreak was the need to make conscious measures to diversify Nigeria's economic base. Emefiele said all necessary approvals had been obtained for the Infrastructure Corporation to begin operations in early 2022. With business news, Alika Okwanachi, Arua.
Well, many thanks, Alika. And up next is the newspaper review.
Baya Tebe is here in the studio. Good morning, Baya.
Good morning, Claire. Good morning, Yusuf. Good morning, Nigeria.
Welcome, Baya.
Thank you.
Yesterday, you started with Demicron.
Well,
today
you have Ihu.
Ihu.
What did you say was the meaning in Hausa?
Ihu.
Ihu
yelling.
Yell or yelling.
Yelling, to yell. Ah. And in Igbo language, that's the language of the South.
Ihu means what?
Ihu. If you call it, depending on the tonation, if you call it Ihu, as some would, it's face.
Face, okay.
But if you call it
Ihu,
it means yell. So it will appear that COVID-19 is yelling at the world.
It's yelling in the face of the world. Well, all right, the world will yell back at COVID-19 until we drive it out.
It's even sending a big warning. Everybody should therefore listen. It's a big sound. So listen, everybody.
Ihu.
Ihu. Ihu. So let's get started. Let's start with the... Can we have the leadership newspaper so that we can get started with that? On the leadership newspaper today, the front page, we have the following story. Can we please have it? Okay, right. Now we have a 915 megawatts Zungeru Kaduna projects for completion in 2022. And then also down we have ahead of election year, states prioritize capital projects in 2022 budgets. Details of that on page 4. The writers experts foresee boom in economic activities, warn against white elephant projects, hint successful implementation of staple federal allocations and the political will. On the leadership newspaper, on page 8 specifically, Uzodinma fails to name sponsors of violence in Imo. And then federal government gates U.S. node to fight bandits with Super Tucano jets. Federal government gates U.S. node to fight bandits with Super Tucano jets. And then on page 6, 44 Nigerian journalists killed in 2021, says the Nigerian Union of Journalists. 44 Nigerian journalists killed in 2021, says Nigerian Union of Journalists. Now, PNV appoints Doyin Salami as Chief Economic Advisor. These are the stories on the leadership newspaper. Claire, can we have one before I get down to the punch?
No, go. I think you should take your punch.
Can I just write it
Yes,
down?
yes,
all
please.
Right. Okay, let's have the punch, please, and then see exactly what we have there. There are so many stories, it's really loaded here. The punch normally has a very congested, front page. And these are good stories, I must say. We'll start off from the top. PFAs, that's Pension Fund Administrators, invest additional 603 billion naira pension funds in banks. Details on page 17. On page 28, Osinbajo's presidential campaign billboard surfaces in Abuja. On page 2, Ohaneze to lobby North Southwest for all Igbo presidential race. And on page 2, Muslim ticket unacceptable, says Christian Association of Nigeria and NSCIA, Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs. That differs on that, really. It didn't agree with that. Now, coming down, the main story here is AMCON lists 7,912 names, owing 4.4 trillion naira as deadline expires today. Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria lists 7,912 names, owing 4.4 trillion naira as deadline expires today. Details on page 17. And the writers are, National Assembly has directed we publish debtors list, says the corporation. The second rider is, this is final warning. Don't be taken by surprise. Ampon tells debtors. Coming down, 68 stranded kidnapped victims rescued in Zamfara bush after 3 months. The photo picture is about that, I should think so. And then these are women, children, and almost everybody is here. On page 8, Cameroonian refugees protest deportation of separatist leaders and demand 68 million naira. And on page 28, Zamfara APC counters PDP, says Mutawali won't resign over banditry. And then on presidency, Tinubu group boasts of national spread, says ex-governor Ahead others, on page 27. Finally, at the foot of the page, we have 3 stories, and they are: Kano to electrify 100 communities with solar power, details on page 24. Kaduna bandits kill 7 family members, 2 others. Troops neutralize gunmen, details on page 9. And finally, on page 18, Dana plane, speeding car in near collision on Lagos Airport taxiway. Dana plane, speeding car in near collision on Lagos Airport taxiway. This sounds dangerous.
Very dangerous. very dangerous and scary.
Yeah, scary, really.
It's scary. Okay, let me quickly take the Nation and the Al Jazeera midweek. I'm just checking the time. Bayo, we're almost eating your time. Federal government said to Gazette order classifying gunmen terrorists, and the rider is public interest will guide Buhari's decision on Nnamdi Kanu's release, says Malami. And of course, the Nation is crediting NTA Good Morning Nigeria show for this headline report. And just to take above the nameplate, Uzodinma fails to name crime sponsors in Imo. Details of that on page 29. And you find Doyin Salami is Buhari's chief economic advisor. We just told you that on our early morning news. Kanu inaugurates rural electrification scheme. And okay, that's it for the Nation. Quickly to Al Jazeera midweek paper. And headline news, 519.77 billion naira remittance target. Discourse record 25% shortfall. There are quite other riders there. Is the lead story on midweek Al Jazeera. Midweek Al Jazeera newspaper. That's what I'm taking, if the cameraman can get it on. So I repeat, the lead story, 519.77 billion naira remittance target. Discourse record 25% shortfall. And Oshimbajo is sellable, just below that lead story. Oshimbajo is sellable candidate for presidency. That's coming from a member of the reps, I presume. The editorial is on Ponzi schemes draining Nigerians. It's on the front page. And other trending stories, SNAF approves posting appointment of senior officers. And trending at the foot of the paper, tension as Hausa Yoruba clash over what? Sugar cane in Ilorin. Bayo, quickly.
Well, thank God the Nigeria Civil Defense Corps intervened quickly and it didn't blow out. 50 kobo sugar cane was bought. The buyer said it's not sweet, I wanted it returned, and it became an altercation. You know, when people are frustrated, unnecessary, small thing that they ought to have ignored will become a source of conflict.
Thank God for that.
There's better news now coming from Zamfara. In 3 spades of rescues, the Zamfara Police Command have rescued 97 abducted victims. These ones were abducted by a criminal bandit leader known as Bello Turuji. The Commissioner of Police, Ayuba Elkana, presented them. They included, you won't believe it, 7 pregnant women, 16 children aged between 2 and 7, and 19 other infants aged 2 to 7 years. The police also received intelligence that another group had been abandoned, 68 of them comprising 33 male and 25 female were also rescued. They were persons that were abducted from Magaria and Maradu in Zamfara, as well as Sabon Birni in Sokoto. A third batch of 29 victims abducted over 60 days ago were also rescued from a kingpin known as Ado Alero. So Zamfara is succeeding in rescuing them. But meanwhile, all those that were rescued, a total now about 194 of them, are to undergo various medical treatment before they will be handed over to the members of their family. And in Osun State, that should be, there is an attempted jailbreak at Ile-Ife, where inmates attempted to rush a correctional officer and injured him with the hope that they will be able to break out. But luckily, the correctional officers maintained their vigilance and shot at some of them. In fact, 4 of the inmates were killed. And it may be recalled that Minister of Interior had given indication that there is now a standing order at jailbreakers or those who attempt to break jail to be shot aside. In Imo, Governor Hope Uzodinma says that he will allow security operatives to conclude their investigation, arrest, and prosecute all those who are emboldening criminality in Imo State. It may be recalled that Imo has suffered a spate of criminal attacks, including attack on the headquarters of the correctional center, police stations, royal palaces, and even one time at the home of the governor himself, where it was set ablaze. The governor lamented that a former governor seems to operate as if he is still in governor, and he was emotionally appealing that he should be allowed to govern the state as the governor. Our Super Eagles, yes, they are to leave for Cameroon this morning. As at yesterday, 23 were in training. 5 others were to join them there. The squad of 28. They are to be camped in Garoua in northern Cameroon, where they will participate in the 33rd edition of the African Cup of Nations. Our first match is coming on Tuesday. It is against the Pharaohs of Egypt. Can I get a prediction from Claire?
No, the Egyptians, no. If, with hindsight, we've always locked on, with the Pharaohs. And really, I look forward to it, but I'm not optimistic.
Super Eagles, no tension.
That's interesting. But we wish them the best of luck.
We wish them all the best, and then we hope you're going to really make it out there. And then at least for the first, let it be the first win, so that we get started with a very good note. Well, thank you so much, Bayo.
Thank you, too.
Thank you so much. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. We'll now take a break. The program continues in a moment. Stay with us.
We want to thank you for your consistent support and patronage. And to you who may not have been patronizing Made in Nigeria, we can start today by building a relationship with Erisco Foods, like our numerous partners and customers who believe in eating healthy food and in the economic progress of our country. So we enjoy you to buy Erisco tomato paste and our other Made in Nigerian products. Join the following people, institutions, and others in promoting the proudly Nigerian dream. President Muhammad Buhari, the First Lady Dr. Mrs. Aisha Muhammad Buhari, Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum, NTA, Anglican Diocese of Amish, Catholic Diocese of Onitsha, the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Winners Chapel, ShopRite, Next Cash and Carry, Spa Nigeria, Prince Ebano Supermarket, Buka Hut. What about you? When you buy a Risco product, you are supporting us to create more jobs. Be part of us today. Thank you. God bless you.
The Nigerian aviation sector is rapidly growing with the construction of new international airport terminals in several regions of the country. The new Murtala Mohammed International Airport has an estimated passenger increase of 30 million annually and 15 million for Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja. Malam Aminu Kano International Airport is also expected to open new frontiers for the region with more travel capacity for the annual Hajj, while the new Akanu Ibiam International Airport, Enugu, avails more business opportunities connecting the industrial cities in the region to the world. These new terminals beat world-class standards with enabling infrastructure that aid air travel, tourism, and the eventual growth of the country's GDP.
Open up commerce and, of course, link us to international societies.
People from international community will come here to do business, and then that will bring in more revenue to the state.
Now, distances can be seamlessly covered as Nigeria keeps raising its bar to suit global infrastructure standards.
We've been trying our best to contain the situation. In our operations, we've been able to make a lot of recoveries. We've been able to also arrest suspects that are involved in this kind of activities, and We've been able to also recover particularly arms and ammunition from those who are carrying it unlawfully and disturbing the peace of the people. But generally, our morale in the Nigerian police is always guided by our commitment to do what we have sworn to do. Peace and security must be looked into as a priority by all, to look at security as the business of all of us.
This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The African Cup of Nations starts on the 9th of January 2022 on NTA, powered by Afrosport. For sponsorship and advertisements, contact us on 090-9890-6913 or 090-3513-2838.
All right, welcome back. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and right on time as we commence our conversation, which is on the political outlook for Nigeria this year, 2022. Now, as one columnist puts it, it's the year to take our country, Nigeria, back. But that will depend if we get it right, of course, with the election of our political leadership. So, to begin the conversation, let's join our correspondent, Oyemi Ajayi, with a background report.
The year 2021 was one filled with many political activities in Nigeria, right from cross-carpeting by some politicians with two state governors, Governor Ayade of Cross River State and Bello Matawale of Zamfara State, defecting to the ruling party, All Progressives Congress, APC. Worthy of note are the attacks on the Electoral Commission in some parts of the country, especially in the South. There was crisis in the camp of the main opposition party, PDP, leading to court rulings for the then national chairman, Uche Secondus, who was eventually removed from office, paving the way for an acting chairman who led the party into its October National Convention and election of a new national chairman. In the midst of fear due to insecurity in the southeastern part of the country, especially in Anambra State, specifically from the proscribed separatist group, IPOB, the November 6 governorship election was successfully conducted with Chukwuma Charles Soludo, the then governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, elected as the new governor of the state. An important issue of that year is the president withholding assent to the 2021 Electoral Act, seeking to repeal and reenact some parts of the electoral law. The presidency has cited insecurity, high cost of conducting direct primaries, and infringement of the rights of Nigerians as the reason for declining the bill. Although the last could not be said to have been heard about the bill yet, as the federal lawmakers are expected to revisit the issue upon resumption from their recess later in January. This is one major expectation of many Nigerians who anticipate a better electoral law, which will favor the masses in particular. Now 2022 has commenced as INEC releases Ekiti governorship electoral timetable. Many see the successful election conduct in the state as well as Osun State as a litmus test for the Electoral Commission. How possible is it for better consensus to be reached between the executive and legislatives over the electoral bill? Also, what credibility will successful conduct of the governorship election in Ekiti bring to the electoral process in Nigeria? What level of political growth has the country achieved over time? What more needs to be put in place by the Electoral Commission towards 2023 general elections? Guests already seated will be answering these shortly.
It's Good Morning Nigeria, and of course we're discussing the outlook of political outlook of Nigeria in 2022 against the background of what really happened in 2021. We have guests, and some of them are already seated here. One is a researcher, a political scientist, and a public affairs analyst in person of Dr. Abdulrahman Abu Hamisu. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here this morning.
Thank you so much. And we also have the former Commissioner Information and Strategy at the Master Honorable Ahmed Sajo. Sir, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
There's a new name here. It's always here. You're welcome home.
It's not too late to wish Nigerians a very, very happy New Year.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We're expecting some few other guests too. Whenever they come, we are going to introduce them, and then the conversation gets really heated up. But in the meantime, let's get started with these two gentlemen we have in the studio here. 2021 has, done its best and its worst, if you like. So it has come and gone. And then when we look back at that, we can see how the political terrain was, how tumultuous it was, how good it was, talking about, defections, talking about, internal wranglings in parties, and of course some other issues like the governorship elections and a host of others. Now, Abu Hamisu, against the background of what really happened in 2021, these issues you've mentioned, which were really serious issues that, served as, building blocks for action in 2022. What's your assessment of our politicians in 2021 as we look ahead in 2022 vis-a-vis the activities they went through?
Well, thank you very much for that very particular combination of questions that are intertwined and interconnected, as it were. Basically, we are moving towards change, and those that are against change. We're moving towards change in the sense that there is this drive by Nigerians to lay a very solid foundation after almost 22 years of operating liberal democracy in Nigeria. But again, you still find these elements that has persisted right from the introduction of electoral law and franchise in Nigeria, which is the personal interest of the politicians, justly for power, ensuring that they don't really play by the rule. In any rule that we could tell them, they have a way of circumventing it, so that at the end of the day, we have a lot of lacunas that we deal with, that we take us to Supreme Court at the end of the day. So only very few of our elections end at the close of balloting. Most of our elections, the outcomes are determined by the courts. And it all starts from the processes and the laws that are supposed to guide the processes. For instance, like the argument over whether we should have direct primaries or not to have direct primaries. These are not really important in countries where politicians and those that are aspiring to be leaders abide by the rules and regulations. But when you have a system that the rules and regulations are supposed to guide even political parties, are supposed to guide behaviors, are supposed to guide the entire process that is leading to the election, is always perforated by acts that stems from the desire to acquire power by all means. What we end up with is a fetish of rules upon rules upon rules that will box us into a corner. At the end of it all, we still come back to the starting point. The starting point is, for me, the behaviors of those that are aspiring to lead us, the behavior of those that are manning the political parties, the behaviors of those that are the electoral officers, the behavior of those that are the agents that are representing parties. So most of the times it's not even about the rules and regulations. It's about the commitment to abiding and being governed by those rules and regulations. So up to this moment, if you ask me, the gains of 2015 has been massively eroded, so to some reasonable extent, because when the card reader came, we said it was the game changer. And at that point in time, violence was a little bit low in terms of the deployment of violence to winning elections, because there is no correlation. There is no relationship between voting in an election day and violence, to the extent that we have electoral violence. The essence of election itself is to do what? Is to eliminate violence. But when you have violence in the electoral process, that is an aberration. And this is what is the electoral violence we are talking about is a total sum of our actions as a people that are not given to abiding by what the terms are portraying. For instance, if I'm to go to election, I'm not supposed to go with knife, I'm not supposed to go with cutlass, I'm not supposed to go with gun, because that is the essence of election in the first place. Just go peacefully and exercise your vote. Don't force anybody.
Before I bring in Honorable Sergio into our conversation, I'd like you to bullet point, if you may, the issues that contributed in eroding the gains of 2015 or the gains of even 2021. Okay. Politically.
The first is our attitude as players, as observers. Our political lexicon is full, is weaponized, is filled with threats. We are going to do this, we are going to do that. No, it is about persuasion, it's about conversation, it's about conviction, about convincing people. It's about the general atmosphere that predisposes somebody to say, I'm going to choose A over B, not imposing your will on me or on any other person. By the time you start imposing your will, it's no longer democracy. It's no longer about conversation. It's no longer about persuasion. Okay. The second thing again is our penchant to win at all costs, by all means necessary. And one of the things that usually come from that is when you destroy in order to succeed, you have destruction waiting for you at the doorstep of your success. And that is why governance become very difficult. Even the banditry, the issues of kidnappings, the issues of armed robbery that is being witnessed today are manifestations of the post-election mismanagement of the people we used to win election. Because most of the people that are wielding the AK-47 and the A-class rifles that are threatening our national security do not have capacity to purchase them. It is people that use these guys for elections that empower them.
Proscribed party supporters, if you
And
may.
then, yes, and after election, they are abandoned to their fate. And the only business they know is the use of rifles. And before you know, you start contending with, and then that takes us to the issue of security vote. And the governor that created the problem and those politicians will now share security votes in order to maintain peace. Monies are supposed to go into development, they're supposed to go into education, they're supposed to go into health. Then the last thing is the fetish about review. All the time we are reviewing electoral laws. What has been the outcome? Now we're talking about electoral transmission of result. And people are saying it's going to be the game changer. No, it's not the game changer. It is our attitude that will be the game changer. Because the transmission cannot function without the human component. Okay. And if the human component is corruptible, and we can influence the human component of it, then the electronic transmission is dead on arrival. Because if I can be given 10 million in order to change the result at the point of imputing, it's garbage in, garbage out. Okay. So what are we talking about?
Okay, Dr. Hamisu, let me put you on hold. Thank you. And bring in, of course, Honorable Ahmad Sajo. Change is driven by the leadership. And then, of course, maybe I should say sustained, deepened and sustained by the followers. Regardless, I'd like for you to tell us, do you see any glimpse of change in the behavior of the leadership, particularly in the outgone year?
I don't know what you hope to really, what message you hope to convey by just considering one aspect of our lives within an ecosystem that has a nexus. Mm-hmm. Nigeria is mercifully one of the few countries that have been protected divinely against natural disasters. We have not had hurricanes, we have not had tsunamis, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions. We don't have any disaster, no typhoons in Nigeria. The only disaster we have is ourselves. You can point at some of the disasters, insurgency, banditry, kidnapping for ransom, violent separatists, ethnic jingoists, political bigots. This is part of our disaster. Then the second leg of our disaster, corrupt politicians and corrupt public officers, unpatriotic service providers who compromise on the service they are supposed to provide. We have very fraudulent traders and businessmen. We have a financial system that is identified more by multiple taxation and excessive charges from banks. These are our own disaster. And these disasters somehow affect the ecosystem to the extent that we now have insecurity. If you think insecurity is not going to affect our politics, then you are not thinking right. This insecurity, when non-state actors now break the monopoly of the state in control of instrument of coercion, you notice that in some local governments, they determine who goes to farm and who doesn't go to farm, who goes to market and who doesn't go to market. Who told you that they will not determine who will go out to vote and who will not go out to vote?
Can we also look at it in terms of the quality, of elections that we have had? Yeah, because it's not all doom.
No, I'm just coming. So you look at those ones. Now you look at, we have 2 off-cycle elections this year, Ekiti and Osun. And then by August, all of the nominations for president, vice president, about 30 governors and deputy governors, 109 senators, 360 House of Representative members, about 1,060 or above members of the House of Assembly. All of these nominations will take place by August. The process that will build up to those nominations will definitely affect the polity, adversely or otherwise. Now, don't forget that in all of these things, we also have the economy to contend with. If we do not get it right in the economy, if poverty levels persist the way they are now, if social inequalities persist the way they are now, that also will affect our political system.
Sorry, again, I'm sorry to interject. Because you're fast-forwarding us. Yes, no. You're fast-forwarding. We're trying to evaluate, 2021 to see if we had, taken any step forward in terms of political, engineering, re-engineering, if you may. Are there things that we could...
The interrelations between those factors are the ones that defined our politics in 2021.
Okay.
They're going to define our politics.
Sorry, you need a cup of water?
I'll get back to you in a moment. Let's come back to, Abu Hamisu here. Ahmed Sajo pointed some sort of a gloomy picture, I'm sorry to use that word, of the Nigeria we live in today. Almost everybody is a culprit. Almost everybody, there's no exception, because our behaviors are the things that really, define us. And earlier on, you talked about attitude.
Yes.
And attitude, when you look at this attitude and then the behavior and how we become who we are, they go synonymously in the same direction, on the same line. 2021 has come and gone, and 2022 is here. We're building up to 2023, a very promising year, I must say. These two twin, values, which seem to be seriously have been affected, I must say, the bane of our problems, politically speaking.
Well, let me highlight a few things that happened during the Anambra elections so that we can use it to signpost what we hope to see going forward. First of all, Anambra is supposed to be a very cohesive state because the people of Anambra speak almost the same dialect, which is the Igbo language. The people of Anambra predominantly are Catholic. They are Catholic by faith. But when you look at the attitude that was deployed to that election, the threat, the level of infighting, I'm talking about intra-party conflict. I'm not talking about inter now. Where you have a national party that was not sure of who is the candidate running into the election. Then when you add that again to the conflict of interest, the proliferation of political parties, the jostling for power, the manipulations, the threats, for God's sake, it was as if we're in a war situation.
But did it impact on the eventual outcome, the quality?
Of course, that was the point I made earlier on. Still, it ended up in the court. It ended up in the court. And the purpose of election is to give everybody equal opportunity to freely choose, either during nomination or at the actual voting period, so that we can sit comfortably, chatting, talking, discussing like brothers and sisters while the tallies are done. And at the end of the process, we could say that, okay, this is the winner. But if you look at the drama that characterized that very particular election, now this is not issue of Hausa versus Yoruba, Yoruba versus Shekiri, Shekiri versus, no. These are people that are coming from the same womb, as it were. So, yeah, it is understandable that in politics there is a sort of dramatization, there is a sort of playing to the gallery. A lot of threat may be issued, but most importantly, devoid of violence. But did we see that peaceful atmosphere, lack of tension, absence of killings up to that period of election? And equally, moving forward to, because if election is to deflate tension, to ensure that there is peace while sorting your differences. Now, if during that process violence come to play, then it means something is wrong somewhere. It's no longer democracy. It's no longer election.
But Honorable Sajo, I know. Sorry about before. I know that political analysts at the end of the Anambra election gave a pass mark, high pass mark to that election. And others would also look at what Dr. Amisu, the issues Amisu raised as part of the democratic process. It is part of, the process that defines a system.
I was one of the few people that really did an analysis on Anambra State, and I didn't give it a high marks. I agreed
that's your opinion.
I agreed that, my dear sister, I agreed that INEC did remarkably well in handling the Anambra elections. But the election itself is not a cause for us to sing hallelujah. And I will tell you why I'm saying so. The winner got 112,000 votes, so thereabout. In a state of 5.5 something million people, 112,000 decided for them who is going to be their governor. That should not be something we should be celebrating. It's not democracy. The entire votes collected were just slightly above 300,000. That is not, we are not deepening our democracy. You cannot deepen democracy by, minority determining the fate of the majority. Democracy is about majority. That's number one. Number two, I said so many people were saying the winner should not celebrate his victory yet because the Supreme Court has not voted. That again is an indictment of our electoral system. We're surrendering the right of the voter to determine who becomes his governor to a few judges sitting on this. So if we look at it from that perspective, deepening democracy means the rights of the ordinary people who will go out and vote is respected. That's what Honorable Dr. Abu Hamis is talking to you about. That are the people actually the determining factors in our electoral process. If the people are not the determining factors in our electoral process, then the electoral process is faulty. And the people are not deciding. 112,000 people voting for a 5 million people population, it doesn't make sense.
Okay, let's pause you and welcome the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Niger Delta Affairs. While we were having a conversation, he walked in, Senator Itai Enang. Senator Itai Enang, we're glad to have you with us on this on the 5th day of the new year.
Thank you very much. Sincere apologies. Happy New Year to all Nigerians and to all those and to Good Morning Nigeria. Thank you.
Okay, you may also wish to start, your contribution. We're looking back at the year 2021 to see if politically we could touch any change in terms of behavior, in terms of innovation, whatever that we could pick out politically.
Well, in terms of behavior politically, I think the nation should learn, and but some political parties have refused to learn. And a few of the things that happened last year in terms of election in the political space, I've heard my brother say that people should not celebrate, or that people should not have celebrated yet, or analysts say we shouldn't have celebrated a Anambra election yet because the Supreme Court had not voted. Now, that seems to say that there is something innately wrong in our political system, where the political parties, most political parties haven't learned much, because in the Anambra election, one of the political parties, particularly the All Progressive Congress, the Supreme Court stated that the All Progressive Congress had no candidate because it did not conduct a valid nomination primaries to choose its candidate. And so the named candidate should be deleted as if they did not participate in the election. And of course, part of the lesson we should learn from here, we should take from here, is that the political process, it is not what the political parties do or the leaders of the political parties do that is the law. The law is what is in the law itself, in the Electoral Act and the practice. Now, we had that challenge in Rivers State, where internal wranglings defined and made APC not to have candidates in that election. We didn't, the political party or the political system didn't learn. We had that situation where in Bayelsa State, there was the elections, vote cast, candidate emerged, and in the course of the parade, preparing to swearing in 24 hours, the Supreme Court took a decision on the wrong action of the political party in fielding the running mate. The political party didn't learn. We also had that situation in Zamfara State, where because of internal wranglings in the political party, it was declared that all the candidates of that particular party, the APC again, did not have candidates in that election. And by a very slim margin, in the Ondo case, the Akeredolu's case, a split decision of the Supreme Court narrowly allowed the APC to win. Why am I bringing all this analysis? The 2023 outlook, the 2022 outlook compared to 2021 should be defined by the political parties returning to what the law is and not thinking that whatever the actions of their leaders is the law. I have always appreciated the position of His Excellency Mr. President. As leader of the party, he allows each person who has a role to play in any situation to do what they have to do, and will always insist on what is the law, do the right thing. Therefore, political parties in this year, not just APC, all the other political parties who've not held their convention, who've not had the culture of having correct direct primaries, correct internal process of choosing their candidate, whether direct or indirect, should please start to organize their convention, look at what the law says, and that INEC will not ask you, have you done the proper thing or have you not done the proper thing? It will accept what you give to them, but they will make their note. So political parties will and should start having what we could call a scrutiny department or external scrutiny or internal process monitoring department. I know they have their legal department, but it does appear that the legal department perhaps don't give the actual legal opinion, or when they give, it is ignored. So I'm praying that the 2022, where INEC has brought out the timetable and the schedule of political activities, each of the political parties should please go back to the drawing board. They should learn from all the decisions of the various courts, whether Supreme Court, Court of Appeal, the various high courts, where some of those cases stopped at the Federal High Court, and say, in each of these actions which we are required to take, what are we expected to do? What did the court say last in this situation? What can we learn from other political parties? The fact that you are a ruling party, the courts are not invited to say whether you are a ruling party or not. The court will say, what is the law?
Okay.
Thank you so much, Senator Ita Inem, for that explanation. Abu Hamisu, against the background of what the senator said, we can now see how, internal wranglings, political, misadventures, I must say, and some other issues like that, marred some aspects of the polity and political activities in 2021. And looking ahead, when looking ahead at 2022 and then build up 2023, we can now see that there should be lessons to be learned by this political class, if really they really want to have it right, especially now that this year is just like the last beautiful big step towards the best of the years politically, talking about 2023.
Yes.
Do you see them behaving in this direction this year?
Well, from all that we've said, I think what is happening is a sort of reenactment of the kind of party politics that we find in 1979, 1983, but in a more refined form. The sort of attitude that goes with that during that very particular period, the impunity has gradually reduced. And the ruling party or Nigerians, two things. Even if they're not going to do anything again till they leave in 2023, to empower INEC to do its job. Because President Goodluck Jonathan did something fundamental, even if he did not rule Nigeria well or anything else. He empowered INEC to dethrone him peacefully. So APC must do the same thing in the interest of peace, stability, and their own safety too. Because we cannot afford any political chaos in addition to the issues of insecurity that we are confronting today. The second thing is for the same ruling party to empower our courts. By empowering them, I mean non-interference in adjudication of cases. If we do these two things, it is the surest way of disciplining our politicians. Because I noticed something that the senator said, which is very fundamental. The conflict between the intellectuals within the party and the crude politicians within the party. The intellectuals will tell you this is what the law says. The politicians will tell you do it to the contrary of the law. We will sort ourselves in the court of law. So mostly this is the tendencies that you find in the party. Now, from what the senator has said, he didn't talk as somebody who is partisan, who is of APC, who is working with Mr. President. He spoke as an objective Nigerian that is following the process and want the process to work. Because if the process works, it is to our own advantage. It's to our own credit. Because we will not spend money to fight the crisis that will come as a result. So if you know that if you do not do the right things, just the way APC lost the seats in Zamfara, right? In Bayelsa, right? In other places, in even the PDP, losing power all over the country. assembled PDP that today it is saying that we are sorry. Just agree with us. If we come back, we'll do something better. I think we need that very particular process of discipline, our politicians. But what has been happening is to treat the whole thing as a party affair, and then because you are the ruling party, either at the local government level or at the state level or at the federal level, you interfere in virtually everything and you treat everything as if the entire Nigeria start and end within the party structure. That is unacceptable. And so if we want to change and we want to discipline politicians, then we must allow the process to run. So fundamentally, the point I want to make is this very particular pretentious amendment that we'll be making, until we empower INEC to accept or reject whatever that do not comply with the rules and regulations, then we will still have problems. And it is done by our politicians deliberately because they believe they can sort themselves up in the courts. So if you allow INEC today to say that, okay, so party A, you conducted a primary that did not meet the requirements of the law. Therefore, we are not even accepting your candidate you are fielding. That saves us a lot of time. Than waiting after 6 months or 1 year for Supreme Court to make pronouncement to say they should reconduct the election, and then we'll go back again to expend our hard-earned resources to reconduct another election.
So when you say empower INEC, I don't exactly know what you mean here. Is INEC not sufficiently empowered so far?
No.
If no, how do you want them empowered? Are we talking about Electoral Act now, looking into it, or what else? What is new? What do you want to add in?
You see, a party that is not ready to do the right things, a party that do not even have the correct numbers of its members, is empowered by law to field a candidate, and whatever they do, INEC cannot even question the legality or illegality of what they've done. So whether INEC likes it or not, it must accept that very particular illegality, however glaring it is. Because anywhere primaries are being conducted, INEC usually send out its own members.
As observers.
As an observer. So what the law says is that INEC can only observe but cannot question.
Exactly. So for it to have the power to do what you're asking, it has to go back to the law.
To the law. So what INEC can do is to observe that, okay, the processes are not legal or they are legal, and then INEC keeps that very particular report until INEC is joined in a suit to come and testify. So you are not even assisting INEC.
That is one aspect. What other thing do you want, given to INEC or empowered to INEC per se in trying to see to it that it becomes really strong enough to carry out this function?
That is exactly. If you are giving somebody the power of evaluation, you should equally give the umpire the power of sanction.
Okay.
Simple.
Let's hear your views on this. We are now delving into Electoral Act amendment and then see how that one can be done and how INEC can really be empowered. We're talking about trying to get it right this time around, 2022, 2023.
Yeah. Okay, let's look at it. You build a house, make it very strong from the foundation, at the foundation level. I'm happy the senator is here. He is adjudged to be one of the encyclopedias of legislative matters in this country. He must start thinking. We must all start thinking. How do we even make our political parties actually political parties? Because I keep saying this, and I have no apologies for saying so. The what we have are not political parties per se, but special purpose vehicles for winning elections. So even if you lose an election, the winner can easily switch over and finds accommodation. Take the Zamfara issue. APC did not field a candidate. APC lost Zamfara election due to the fact that the court nullified their nomination process. The PDP became the government in power, and then the next day the governor now returned to APC, and he's accepted, and he is now an APC member. So PDP again lost because of that. This capacity of the political class to just switch from one party or the other, and then how strong are the parties themselves? You cannot show me 2 PDP states doing the same thing in this country, or 2 APC states doing the same thing. So the political parties do not, even after winning the elections, they do not even have strong manifestos or strong traditions that people who win under them must abide by. And so you look at the legal rigmarole and the political rigmarole from the point of view of the fact that we do not have even a standard upon which to evaluate ourselves and do. And like distinguished senator said, we are not even learning. You make mistake. We were told when we were growing up, some of you will understand, that it is not a mistake to make a mistake, but it is a mistake to repeat a mistake. But how many times have we been repeating our mistakes? So why should it continue to be like that? How strong, how cohesive are the parties? How much of the parties are even owned by the members of the parties? Which of the parties is actually owned by the members? How much of contributions do ordinary members of the parties make? Which of the parties presently, this struggle about whether it is direct primaries or indirect primaries, how many of the parties have a valid membership register? How many of them have membership cards that can verify their members? We noticed that, if you notice in Lagos, when they did direct primaries that brought Sanwo-Olu, how many people came out? Everybody in any ward just came out, whether he is APC, PDP, or any party. When it got to Anambra, what did our party, the APC person, get there? He got over, the APC had over 300 people who came out to do nomination by the records. But when it came to the real election, where were those 300? Where are those 300 or so people? Why didn't they vote on the election? The winner, who even won, got 112,000 or something like that. So generally speaking, we need to learn. We need to learn to surrender our democracy to the people. And that is what democracy is all about.
So
if we need to refine our laws, one of the things that Dr. Amis is talking about is that why would INEC be told that whatever the party gives them, they must accept? You know, simple computer language, garbage in, garbage out. Why can't we change that and say, look, INEC, if you believe very sincerely that the process based on your evaluation does not meet the standard, do not accept the candidate. Yeah. Then the party will now go back and begin to think of the standard. But now the standard does not matter. You know, so there are certain laws we should put in place to empower the people, the owners of the party, the owners of the democratic process, which is the citizens, to have a stronger say, you know, in what happens. And that can only happen in a situation where, like the senator said, we have a president of a country who believes that people should take responsibility for their actions. So he had allowed the system to go according to the rules. But the people who are to operate it according to the rules do not operate it according to the rules.
Honorable Sajo, let's now move forward to 2022 and look at the items that will shape, you know, the new year. And let's begin with the general elections. Like I said earlier on at the beginning of our conversation, someone said that 2022 is a year to take back our country politically. And of course, we know that the race, you know, for 2023 has already started. In fact, it's gaining momentum, expression of interest, you know, people, by politicians here and there. Let's begin with who takes over from Mr. President. And I'm throwing my question to Senator Itaina. Are we reading any body language, you know, of a successor?
Yeah, please permit me to just take a short this thing on the issues raised, but I'm going to be very brief about it. And before I get to the body language of a successor, now Dr. Amisu has said that we should empower INEC to do certain things and to be able to drop candidates. I will want to please, with respect, disagree. I disagree on from hindsight, because that was the law. But I think in the House of Representatives, we amended and changed that situation in the Electoral Act. We changed because we discovered that the persons in power, persons who had access, if you are a strong candidate and you are likely to win the election and you are not in the good books, they will use EFCC, arrest you, and they will quote certain things, certain of the provisions in the Electoral Act and the Constitution that you are under investigation. And so we had to remove that provision, and then we allowed the political parties to take responsibility for their action. That is why we had that situation in Bayelsa, and that is why we had that situation in Zamfara and even in Rivers States. Now, we don't go back to that stage. Now, if we have a situation right now, fortunately or somehow, my law firm handles some of the matters that involve INEC and election petitions. And you will see that in the processes filed, INEC will always say, court order, they put it in quote, that this candidate is filed because the court has said so. You know, they shouldn't be given that power again. Okay. But the power they have now to note, to write their report, and to state what they have observed, now they leave what they have observed to the court to take decision. The final thing before I go to the other one is that we should go to take this question of when you win election, you can now decamp to the other political party. We should take it seriously. I wouldn't draw conclusion. The only thing that I will say near to opinion is that you were a candidate of the political party. You did not contest that election. It was your party that contested that election. It was your party that won that election. It is your party that owns that seat. If you do not want to be in that party, you have to take a decision surrendering the seat of the party to that political party because you did not contest that election. I speak as a lawyer, I speak as a legislator, that is, and that should be taken seriously. Now, going to a body language of the 2023 presidential candidate, that's what you want.
Yes, and how a choice will shape events.
How the choice will shape events is, each of the political parties should look at the sentiments of Nigeria. It should look at the agreements they had within the political party. It should look at how to balance the interests of the North and the South. Because whether we like it or not, these are very, very sensitive issues. They should look at were there agreements within the structure of each of the political parties that in the course of forming the party or in the course of doing the elections. They should also agree that it is not because you can or you have enough votes in your area to deliver a candidate, but that the other candidate, the other group also matters. I appreciate permanently His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari because he has not, by any stretch of imagination, what you call body language, what you call speech on everything, given any indication as to a preferred presidential hopeful, or I will support this, I will support this. He wants every person to play his cards. Even if you serve in his cabinet and you are contesting election or you want to, he allows a free process for you. So it is the people that will determine. Now, let each of the political parties go back to each of these sentiments. Let them go back to the agreement they had. Let them watch and listen to what the public is saying. Let us do justice to each of the political groups, and we will. Again, let us look at the persons, not because you have money, not because you have connections, not because you were this and that, but does your pedigree, does your experience, does your view about the country, does your past qualify you to hold and to say, I want to be the president of Nigeria? Yes, it will be the business of each of your political parties. Yes, you can win the nominations, but the people finally will have their say. And let every person, whether you are in office or not, don't think of how much you acquire for the purpose of election. Think of the political capital that your experience, your conduct, your clean hands, your intellect, and the person in your person, the contents of your character, whether it qualifies you to be the president of Nigeria. Have you had a position before? Not just because you've had business, not just because you've had some subsidy fund or some slush fund, and then you think, oh, I've got this money, I can now be the president of Nigeria. It is more than that. And Nigerians, the youth, the voters are wiser, and they are prepared to cast their vote for he that will define and redefine the future of this country. We are challenged, and President Muhammadu Buhari is facing the challenge, but he needs a successor that will continue facing the challenge deeper and more sustainably for a result for the future of Nigeria.
Senator, Nigerians have been, very enthusiastic politically, talking about who they want to rule them, and of course going to vote, given the conducive environment and the atmosphere. Nonetheless, I would want us to get back a little. I just want to hang on you a little bit on the issue of strengthening the structures. And here I'm referring specifically to INEC, as we started discussing with Abu Hamisu and of course Ahmed Saju here, until we are able to get that very institution, strong enough to stand its grounds and then take action with or without the law. We may not be able to at least smile home at the end of the day. And that is what we are trying to do here. What would be a comment in trying to see to it that ANEC gets further strengthened? The Amendment Act bill the Electoral Act is in the works. It's a work in progress. The president has sent it back to the National Assembly for them to look at it for some certain reasons and specific sections. Now, this is going to be work in progress, at least for now. What would be your comment, and what would you advise to see to it that ANEC becomes much more stronger? Looking at what Prime Minister just says, some political parties are just, special purpose vehicles, and some are just there in name, and INEC doesn't have much strong powers really to interfere in their activities because of the law. What's your comment?
Thank you very much. I want to say that INEC is not hamstrung or is not prevented from doing its job by the law. And but I know that sometimes in 2013 and when we did the amendment in 2014 in the Senate and House of Representatives, I think we considered most of the questions that arose. That question of whether we will use the card reader and something, and then the court intervened, and there were situations where they said you were not allowed to use it. Now I don't think that INEC is prevented from doing certain things. INEC applied some processes which were its own internal invention of doing the correct thing in the Anambra election. The
Beavers.
The Beavers. Now, we did not have a legal challenge as we had in the 2013 amendment, or the 2013 amendment which we did under President Jonathan when I was in the Senate. Now, so INEC is not hamstrung by the law. They can invent the process which they think, and Nigerians appreciated that process. So INEC is not prevented by the law. Now, the Electoral Act. Prior to His Excellency Mr. President declining assent, I granted interview to NTA, and I said, I'm not for or against indirect primaries. I'm not for or against direct or indirect primaries. My position is that the law should not say everything. The law should give some level of autonomy or level of independence to each of the political parties to consider that in our state, we can do direct primaries, or in our members want indirect primaries. And then let each of the political parties, according to their rules, according to their constitution, according to their bylaws, decide how to conduct its own primaries. So INEC is not prevented from doing what it ought to do. And we've not had a substantial amendment to the Electoral Act from after 2010. We've not had a very substantial amendment. As a liaison to Mr. President, I know we tried amendment 3 times. It went in the 3 times, and the issues were still raised, and at a point, it became impossible for the amendment to even be considered, because under the protocol, international protocols, ECOWAS and others, to which Nigeria is a state party, you cannot amend an electoral act so close to the time of election so as to allow the election management bodies to prepare and to allow the candidates to know certainly what the law is before in advance.
All right.
Now, I want the National Assembly to look at what Mr. President has said and look at all other things. And I say all other things because there are still some other issues which there may be reservations, so that it will not be after this, they now say, Mr. President did not raise this one, and it's still fundamental.
Senator Itainan, thank you. The Electoral Act Amendment Bill, the refusal of the President to accent to it has generated quite a lot of comments from political analysts. I'm sure that's your perspective.
Yeah.
When we come back from this short break, I know that Dr. Hamis Urogo and Honorable Sajo would like to speak on it, as well as the political issues that will shape 2022.
Did I hear you say Hamis Urogo?
Yeah, I heard. Did I say Hamis Urogo? Dr. Hamis Urogo. Let's go for a short break.
Into a new phase of development, peace, and prosperity. He is the father of the new Nigeria, His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR. Welcome to another season of giving Nigerians hope yet again. We are sure of a great future for both ourselves and generations yet unborn. We look forward to your leading us as a nation into our manifest destiny. Though the challenges against us as a people are many, we know that your leadership shall set us on the right path to our greatness. A new dawn beckons on us all, and having you as our president is a precursor to this. Thank you for believing in Nigeria. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
Since coming into office in 2015, the Buhari administration has recorded unprecedented achievements in all sectors, especially in the provision of infrastructure, which is the key to economic growth. Never in the history of this country has any administration done so much with so little. Recall that when this administration came into office, the price of crude oil, which provides for 80% of Nigeria's budgetary revenues and 95% of foreign exchange earning, dropped drastically, thus reducing the amount of resources available to the federal government. In spite of this, the administration has continued apace with massive infrastructure developments.
This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Femi Martins, just look at this. Remember the name.
The African Cup of Nations starts on the 9th of January 2022 on NTA, powered by Afrosports. For sponsorship and advertisements, contact us on 090-9890-6913 or 090-3513-2838.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. We're discussing this morning the outlook of 2022, politically speaking. And then we have, some guests here we've been discussing this issue with for quite a while. Let's kickstart this very segment with a look at Nigeria as a whole, and then looking at Nigeria as a whole from the point of view of having it right by 2023. And what we mean here is there is no doubt 2021 has been so much turbulent, in the sense of maybe talking about security most especially, and the economy most especially, and some other factors that, played well and played really bad in the ecosystem. Honorable Ahmed Sajo, one political analyst said Nigeria, is more or less like a pressure cooker at the moment. It is heated up. It is, just waiting for explosion. And somebody said not only explode, it may implode if certain factors are not taken into consideration, especially now that we're looking towards 2023 as we prepare in 2022. Now, this bottled up pressure in Nigeria is caused by certain factors, especially the insecurity issue and some, disaffections in certain quarters. As we walk towards 2023, moving into 2022, towards 2023, how do we dissipate? How do we release? How do we reduce this pressure? How do we get this tension down? And then see to it that at the end of the day, we get a better Nigeria, because it's our duty to do that.
I don't know. I think we are over dramatizing the issue. We do not have the kind of tension that you are describing. No, we are in a country where we have a lot of resilience, whether as political beings or whether people, citizens. We are very resilient. We've always overcome some of our tensions and diffused them, peacefully. But then there are indices that can help us, achieve a stable polity. And what are those indices? One of them is definitely what the distinguished senator raised. We've had an 8-year continuous rule by a northerner. Perhaps there may be need to, in a gentlemanly way, not legally binding way, move the mantle of leadership to the southern part of the country. Perhaps that could, to some extent, improve on the stability of the political stability of the country. But that does not mean that it's also a magic wand that can drive away everything. Mm-hmm. Now, again, we have to look at it from another direction. What is the direction? We have to look at it from the process of ensuring that there is some level of consensus among the political elites to agree not to overheat the polity by their actions and by being very forceful in ensuring that they have their way. But whatever we need to do, we must do to stabilize the polity first. You have to have a country first before you start contesting for who will lead the country. Mm-hmm. And if we allow the political process to degenerate, in a situation where, I have said it earlier, where non-state actors have broken the monopoly of the state, for ownership of instrument of coercion, where you have all of this in the mix, you may have an unstable political environment, and that will make it difficult for you to play the politics, whether you want to play by the rules or you don't want to play by the rules. So we need stability first. Okay. We need stability of the polity. We need stability of the country. We need an acceptance by the political elite across the divides on what are the indices that will make sure that we can keep our constituents and our people very calm, to accept that there is a country called Nigeria, and so we are installing a leader for Nigeria that will be seen as a leader for Nigeria. But all of this should not negate our desire for a credible, capable candidate, somebody with capacity. Okay. Because this is an era where capacity really matters. It's not political popularity alone that should determine who leads Nigeria. The person must have credibility and capacity.
Honorable Sergio, thank you. Thank you. And earlier on we talked about a successor to Mr. President, and of course there is need for a legal framework to decide, for that successor to come up and all that. But Dr. Hamisu, what will be the consequences of our choice of who succeeds Mr. President? People have talked about, he had talked about a gentleman's agreement on, whatever, and there's issue of zoning, there's the issue of rotational presidency, there's also the issue of, direct or indirect primaries. So how far-reaching will where the president or the choice of a successor president comes from have in 2022?
Well, for me, the consequences are two. If we get it right, we soar higher like the eagle.
Get it right, how?
Yes. The distinguished senator has dished out some indices and parameters that are supposed to guide the process of getting the person that can lead this very particular country. I want to bet you that even a 40-year-old can lead this country. What is important is the right attitude and spirit to do the unusual. Governance is about being fair and firm. By doing the right things, where we do have problems are first, personal considerations, political considerations, business considerations. What do I mean by that? Okay, if we pass this law, how does it benefit me as the sitting president because I have an agenda, I want to first somebody on the nation? So whatever amendment that comes to my table, I quarrel with them because it is not going to benefit my own political agenda. The second one is balancing between political interest and national interest. We find ourselves in a situation in this country where political abuses and impunities were treated as family affairs, as if it was not committed against a nation and a people. And then you are accused to that. Somebody that does something wrong previously, before the coming of late President Shehu Musa Yar'Adua, you rig an election, the party ensures that you keep your seat. It was the only president that didn't interfere in cases that led to a political change in some certain ways, where opposition parties were beginning to reclaim their mandate in the court of law. And that was why people like Adams Oshomole could become governors in Edo State. Now, this is the kind of thing we're talking about. As a sitting president, President Yar'Adua knew that his party was going to lose if they followed the process. But he allowed the process because he wanted the right thing to be done in a nation that needed a change. This is what we want to see going forward. And this president has kept that very particular tradition. This is something that we need to maintain to ensure that amendment, ruling, governance is not about Abdurrahman's personal interest or Amisu's personal interest. It's not about my party. It's about the nation. One of the things that I've been lacking in this country is not being patriotic enough to take actions that will benefit the citizenry without a recourse to self and the party or the group that I'm loyal to. Then business interest. Okay, if we bring about these very particular reforms, Alhaji Ahmed Sajo is my older brother. I know him. It's going to affect his business, so therefore that very particular amendment should be thrown away or the reform should be thrown away. No. It should be about the nation first. And that is why issue of zoning or no zoning, to me, is immaterial. To me, is immaterial. What is of material benefit is, are we just to ourselves? And that brings me to the last issue. Believe you me, in this country, even if we give some people the entire country, they will not be satisfied if it is not them that is dishing the food. And these are the people that are using our fault lines. Look, the tension we are talking about is not a tension between Hamisu and the people in the market or the Okada riders or the people that are selling Ugu in the market. No. It is not a tension between me and my students in the classroom. Neither is it tension among the students. It's a tension between parties and groups that want to do what? Take over power. And they recruit us by using our fault lines. And the same people you give money to work for the people and they steal the money, they don't work for the interests of the people. Look at all the problems we have in this country. Two things have happened. Those challenges have been used to justify the removal of money from the national coffers. The monies ended up being stolen, leaving debt for government to pay, and the services are not there, which is double jeopardy. So, for instance, if you go to power sector, what happened in power sector? What about to the monies that were removed for the construction of roads in this country? What about the monies for the development of Niger Delta, as the forensic analysis are revealing? So it is about even fairness to ourselves. So it's not even about north-south divide. From the local government, from the wards. If you go to the ward level now, the fight is which of the hamlets will produce the next councillor. Now you've not come to north-south. No. If you go to Kano today, Kano predominantly is almost 98% Muslim.
But these are the issues. These are the issues at the moment. The political issues at the moment. Are they going to have that effect on? Yes.
You see, we are beginning to have a new generation of people that are beginning to transcend these fault lines.
Okay.
And it's going to define this election, whether we like it or not.
Good. Let's bring in Senator Itainan.
Okay.
Yes. What's your perspective, Senator Itainan? Because even within the APC, the PDP, and other peoples, these are issues that are being discussed, and party members have diverse views.
Thank you very much. Let me appreciate a great part of what my brother, Dr. Hamisu, has said, particularly his statement that political impunity is treated like a family affair, yet it ought not to be, because political impunity is a breach of the constitution of the party and is damaging. Now, where are we going to 2023, and how do we bring down the tension? How do we choose the best of candidates in everywhere? I had laid down a few of what I considered the parameters. But let me also agree that, one, we must have a country before you can have election. You must have a state before you can have a governor and election. So part of what we should concentrate on is returning peace to the hearts of people, returning unity to the hearts of people. Now, the greatest way of returning peace and unity to the hearts of the people is start by the political process, make it inclusive, allow a situation where there can be a wider field for many persons to play, and allow a situation where the electorate or the party members can choose who should be their candidate in the elections, and then let it flow. Now, I think we've addressed enough the question of the powers of the Independent National Electoral Commission. We now have to address more of the sensitivity of the people, that is, the level to which we mobilize the ordinary Nigerian to know his right and to be able to come out to vote and choose candidates. And finally, I want to talk about the security of the country. It played a very great role, and it made the election in Anambra very, very costly, very expensive. But the INEC and the security agencies, under the leadership of Mr. President, were able to overcome, and we had the elections without an iota of security challenge of the level of the magnitude that was envisaged. Now, we'll have to work this up and make sure that we return peace to the country. We're doing much in the southeast. The south-south had calmed down. The southwest is actually in a state of near absolute peace. The middle belt is returning itself to its cohesion. The northeast is having a little bit, a pocket of its challenge. The south, west is having pieces of it. But I want to appreciate the level of the commitment of the security agencies, the actions of the governors, and the actions of the leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari, because we're beginning to have all these calming down and returning. So with this, I believe we are going to have a peaceful preparations to the elections, peaceful political processes, and the party conventions and primaries that is going to lead to a great election. And the greatest of what we need in who will be the governor, who will be the president, governor, senator, is the content of your character.
Thank you so much, Senator Itainan. How like that very statement talking about how calm is coming. And then with that, I think 2023 will be a very good year for Nigeria with these efforts being put in place. In 60 seconds, gentlemen, Abu Hamisu and then Ahmed Sajo, the whole issue and the whole buck seem to be carried and then being put on the elite table now. Because every other thing we talk about here is not the masses, it's not those at the at the lower level of the cadre, but the elites who are struggling for power, talking about political power. In 60 seconds.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to start with the premise that was laid by Senator Tainang before I conclude. He talked about the cost implication of conducting our elections. And that is the main reason I am saying that INEC should be empowered, because if you give me power to make rules and regulations, then you now take away the power of regulation, but you don't take away the power of making internal rules, then there is a problem. And that is what is affecting the cost of conducting elections in Nigeria, where you have 24 hours to election. The court is directing that a particular candidate must be on the ballot paper 48 hours or 24 hours to election. Now, why we're saying this, look, there's something that happened on the social media that took my interest. And it was, I know, it was the debate about overpasses and underpasses. And the youth were debating, our own state overpasses are better than yours. Now, what am I driving at? That when you lead the people rightly and you deliver goods that they expected of you, you don't need Central Bank of Nigeria to fund your political activities. Your deliverables and impact would naturally attract people to you. We are seeing it all over the states in this country, those states that the governors are performing. The emphasis on the center, I think, is something that we need to de-emphasize, because Nigeria is a federation. So the first point of good governance you're supposed to experience is your local government, before you come to the state government, before you come to the federation. But this is not the case in Nigeria. We place emphasis on the center, neglect the people that are developing us, that are using our money for whatever purpose, and then we blame others for that.
What do you wish to see happen?
What we need to say, I have said it, is good governance. Good. Linked to the character the senator talked about. It's good governance. Do the right things at any point in time. We're all leaders at the local government level, at the state level, at the federal level.
Talking about the local government level, Honorable Sajo, the FCT area council elections is coming up in February. Ekiti is in April, and Osun is in July. These are elections that will precede the general elections in 2023. Off-cycle elections. Yes. What's your thought on them?
I think beyond the elections, the issues have been laid out. The senator had laid them, Dr. Abu Hamis had laid them down. We need proper voter education. We need to enlighten our people. We need to raise consciousness, and particularly consciousness in the areas Abu Hamis had spoken to, that the fault lines that are emphasized as our differences must be de-emphasized. We must begin to make people understand that these are just manipulations. They are not real differences that define us or define our political preferences. That we must begin to enlighten people, and that is a job for all of us, particularly those of us in the media. It's our job to enlighten our people, to make our people understand that, to have a mind shift from where we are today to where we ought to be. At least let people understand that beyond all the manipulations, that there are certain character traits that they must look out for in their leadership. There are certain pedigree that you must evaluate in their leadership, and there are certain minimum standards of good governance that will determine whether a leader had performed or not. And once we do that, we would be able to get it right.
Oh, thank you so very much, Honorable Ahmed Sajo, former Commissioner for Information Strategy at Adamawa State. It's our pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Abu Hamisu, Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu, a researcher, political scientist, and a public affairs analyst. It's our pleasure to be part of us this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, a very big thank you too to Senior Special Assistant to the President of Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Itaina. We thank you so much for participating in this program this morning.
Thank you very much, and good morning, Nigeria.
A very big thank you also to you out there. You've been good to us. You've been part of us. So we thank you so much for being part of us, really, and we hope you keep being so. Let's now take a look at the foreign scene before we round up the program.
Prosecutors have revealed that the man who allegedly set fire to South Africa's parliament was caught with explosives. Zandile Christmas Mafe is facing 5 charges, including 2 counts of arson following the blaze which began tearing its way through the historic Cape Town building. The 49-year-old has denied all charges, and his lawyer has said he is a victim of mistaken identity. Mafe is the only person arrested in connection with the fire which totally destroyed the National Assembly or lower chamber but injured no one. This attack has brought shock to South Africans. Now to Europe, French President Emmanuel Macron says he intends to make life difficult for those who are yet to be vaccinated against COVID-19. But political opponents say the strong language he used was not worthy of a president. His comment came as a bill on COVID-19 was delayed by opposition members of parliament uniting against the government. A debate in Parliament on the bill, which would bar the unvaccinated from much of public life, was prevented from continuing after midnight.
All right, we thank correspondent Yemi Ajayi for the reports on the foreign scene. And that concludes our program for today. And Good Morning Nigeria. We thank you as always. It's always a pleasure to have you join us. And do join us bright and early again tomorrow for another edition. I am Claire Adilabu Abdul Razak, always urging you to join us in our fight against rape crime records.
And I'm Yusuf Nadabu Usman. You have a wonderful. Join us tomorrow.